Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Haribol, Haribol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 16, and verse 37. And it says, "My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject?" Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful creature is killed. Sometimes we're put into difficulty, just as Harivilas was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Harivilas was punished at the hands of the Kali by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom. Their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters, there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of God. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha Pune. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled "The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, Cursed by the Sages." Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Okay, so this verse 3:16-37 says, "My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. The most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject?" Well, that last sentence is a question. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? Okay, well, what does that mean? Let's just think about that a minute. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject. Well, it seems.
Sorry, I don't understand, but I found something else. You want to know what purpose does the internet serve?
Okay, Google, stop.
Nothing's playing right now.
Yeah, that's
So, anyway, the verse is, my dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yoga Maya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, persona Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? Well, that's a good question. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? Well, we can try and understand. We can, if we have contact with the devotees of the Lord, we can ask questions. We can also be patient. There was a saying once, I think it was, all those who wait patiently also serve. That was what was his name, a British guy. I forget his name now. Churchill, yeah, Winston Churchill. He's talking about, World War II. He said, those who patiently wait also serve. So he's referring to the mothers and wives of the soldiers that were fighting and dying also in World War II. And he said, those who wait patiently also serve. So it's an interesting statement you made. And so the main point in this purport is that when something is arranged by the Supreme Personality Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculation. Well, that happens in life. Let's put it like this. There are ups and downs in the material world for everyone. Sometimes everything seems to be going very well, and that's called an up. And then sometimes everything seems to be failing, and that's a down, right? So that's just part of the material world. Sometimes people win and sometimes people lose. Sometimes people are happy and sometimes they're unhappy. But for a devotee, regardless of happiness or distress, the devotee always continues in devotional service. It does not give up devotional service. Because the devotee knows that everything is controlled by the Lord. So the Lord has some, purpose, some plan. So the devotee continues his service faithfully and patiently waits to see the plan of the Lord. Eventually, one will begin to understand what the plan of the Lord is. Like, for example, after the disappearance of Prabhupada, which is really, very shocking for the devotees, then 11 people basically took the position of leaders of the movement. And then rather somewhat quickly, not overnight, but over a period of time, at least 9 of them fell down. And that was shocking to the devotees. And some devotees say, well, we can't rely on somebody becoming a guru, so we'll just keep Prabhupada as our guru, and will initiate people in the name of Prabhupada. So that, of course, was something never done before in the Sampradaya, Vaishnava Sampradaya. But, people thought, well, this is the way we're going to remedy this problem of so-called gurus falling down. But it doesn't really remedy anything. It just makes a hybrid deviation from the traditional sampradaya. Why do I say hybrid deviation? Because such a thing had never been done before, and there's nothing in the Shastra to support it. That from now on, all the new initiates will be initiated as disciples of Prabhupada. And because we can't trust anybody that becomes a guru. Well, I mean, the problem was generally solved over time that the gurus stopped falling down. But at one time, right after Prabhupada's disappearance, the people that became gurus, after a couple of years, a whole bunch of them fell down. They were supposed to be, pure devotees. So the one solution was, well, let's do something that was never done before. Yes.
You say, and gurus fell down. Like what is the falling down here? Like, to what level? Did they leave the movement or?
Well, there was all. It was a big. It was let's say, a big spectrum of fall down. Like one had his head cut off by his own disciple. One ran off with the money, and although he was he had left his wife and he was a sannyasi, he ran off with one of his disciples' wives. There's a whole different things that happen, right? Some just disappeared. They left. They were not interested anymore in Krishna consciousness. Now that doesn't mean they. When I say they left, they didn't want to have any more responsibilities in ISKCON, even though they had disciples. And it was very hard on the disciples. All of a sudden you have a devotee, and now all of a sudden you have a guru, and all of a sudden guru leaves, doesn't want to be a guru. So a whole bunch of different things happened that were, very shocking to the rank and file devotees. But anyway, ISKCON survived, and now it's not happening so much anymore. Thank God. Much more stable now.
Because of the shock they had because of Prabhupada's disappearance, they couldn't control the emotions.
Well, the thing was, they weren't ready to become a guru. And they thought, well, I'll just imitate what Prabhupada did. So you can't imitate Prabhupada, but you can follow Prabhupada's instructions, and go to bed early, wake up early, take your bath, chant your rounds, you can do that, but you can't act like Prabhupada, like, you're never going to replace Prabhupada, but you can follow Prabhupada's instructions and help others follow Prabhupada's instructions. So they wanted to rubber stamp themselves as pure devotees, although they were not really pure devotees, let's put it like that. And instead of imitating, they should have followed. That should have been the main, preoccupation. Just simply follow like a good devotee, follow all the rules and regulations. But they tried to act, the ones that fell down, they were trying to act like they were Prabhupada, and then their disciples were over glorifying them. Oh, Guru Dev, you have so many disciples, and the sun never sets on your the number of disciples and the number of people that have surrendered unto you, and the expansion of your responsibilities and so forth. You know, they were over glorifying their guru, and when the guru fell down, they were just completely bewildered. Right? It was very sad to see that, and it caused a lot of havoc in the movement. You know, a lot of people left and went to other, groups like the Sridhar Swami group, and this group and that group. You know, they were looking for ashraya, shelter. So, and then some just left Krishna consciousness altogether, and a lot went to other, sampradayas. Okay, so the main point is here that when something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. And look what Prabhupada says. He says, for example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridasa was punished at the hands of the Kazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom, their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters, there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. That's the real purport here. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead. So one time Prabhupada said, well, I'm not surprised by the ones that have left the movement. I'm surprised by the ones that have stayed. Yeah, because people were falling down left and right. Even when Prabhupada was present. And then after Prabhupada was present, it was really got bad. Big devotees with a whole bunch of disciples fell down. But the movement continued. That's why Prabhupada said, I'm not surprised by the ones that have left. I'm surprised by the ones that have stayed. And he's more or less saying the same thing here, that he says, he says, what did he
He
say?
accepts even reverse.
The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead. There you go. That's the statement. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was No use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Those are very profound statements, and we should meditate on them, because in life there's always going to be situations that are favorable and sometimes situations that are not favorable. And sometimes we'll do everything we can to achieve a certain goal, and there's a lot of failure. But we shouldn't be disturbed by it, or we shouldn't be discouraged. Even in the case of Prabhupada, when he first came to the United States, he struggled the first year and a half or 2 years without much success. And sometimes he was thinking, well, maybe I should go back to India. But then he prevailed, and he was patient. And then there was an explosion that happened of many devotees started to join. But for, I think, the first 2 years, it was very difficult for Prabhupada, you know. So we see that well, you could say Krishna tests us to see how determined we are to spread the movement. But there's a saying that success is guaranteed for the strict practitioner. Success is guaranteed for the strict practitioner of Krishna consciousness. So if you don't get discouraged by, like sometimes, devotees would go on Sankirtan. This was very early days. And they would hardly get any donations. They would chant and they'd hardly get any donations. Or they would have programs and hardly anyone would come to the program. Maybe, one or two people. And Prabhupada said, well, he said, don't be discouraged. He said, if nobody comes, then you continue to preach, because you may not see it, but Narada Muni is there, and other great devotees are there. Because whenever you perform Harinam Sankirtan, all these transcendental devotees are present. So he said, you may not be able to see them, but it's said in those shastra that they're present, so you should accept it. So you can't say, oh, nobody came. If you chant sincerely, Narada Muni is there, and other great devotees are also there. And there's a verse like that. I don't know if I can find it right now, but that when you chant sincerely, Krishna is there, and Balaram is there, and all these great devotees are there while you're chanting the holy names. So we should always be chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. Now, see, that's the sign of a real devotee. A real devotee continues his devotional service, whether it's successful or not successful, whether what he's doing seems to be successful or what he's doing seems to be not successful. But he doesn't give up. He continues following the regulative principles and continues preaching. And Prabhupada said, if you preach, you will be successful. And the opposite is true. If you don't preach, you won't be successful. So we have to, be determined not to be discouraged by, let's say, not being successful. Like Prabhupada in the first year or two in the United States, he was not successful, but he didn't give up. And then he became tremendously successful. So therefore it says that the devotee, the Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverse. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord even in reverse conditions is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It is possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Okay, so there's a plan. Now the nonsense people, they say there's no plan. What do you mean there's a plan? There's no plan. Nature is going on, and there's no plan. Like say, God has a plan, but that's not true. Everything is under the control of the Lord, especially wars. When there are too many demons in the world, Krishna organizes a war where the demons on both sides fight with each other and kill each other. So we're seeing now the war between Russia and Ukraine. So many Russian soldiers and so many Ukrainian soldiers are being killed because there were too many demons and they get killed. Now you'd say, oh, how can you say that? That's very, insensitive statement, because a lot of these soldiers, they're like 18-year-old, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old young kids. And why they don't look like demons. Well, yeah, but they're mostly meat eaters. They engage in illicit sex, and their celebrations. There's always like beer or liquor, and so Krishna knows what the karma is of each person, and usually when there are too many demons, he arranges a war so they kill each other off and lessen the weight of disturbance on Bhumi Devi. Bhumi Devi is the superintendent, not superintendent, but she is represents the earth. She's the earth goddess. But when there's too much sinfulness going on, it becomes too difficult for her. It's like it makes the planet too heavy because of all of the sins that are going on, and so at that time Krishna will organize these wars, so the number of demons will die. Therefore, we can see that there's a plan always, the plan of the Lord. The plan of the Lord is, he promises that he will protect the devotees and maintain the principles of Sanatana Dharma and destroy the demons. He promises to do that. So, as part of the plan of the Lord, if there are these big wars and so many people are dying, it's because there's too many demons. And his purpose is to protect the devotees and eliminate the demons and reestablish the principles of religion. And that's in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the plan of the Lord, because he's responsible. All these living entities are his praja, or they've all been. We've all come from Krishna. And when there's deviations, Krishna is responsible, so he has to correct the situation. And he does that sometimes in different ways. He can do that with hurricanes, he can do that with earthquakes, he can do that with floods, he can do that with heart attacks. And so we have to be very careful to strictly follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness and always pray for the mercy of the Lord. And the Lord will protect us then. But if we deviate, then the Lord has thousands of ways of how to correct the situation. You know, you get one little, let's say, uh, um, obstruction of the blood circulation to the heart, you could die very quickly. It's not difficult, to make a blood clot, So Krishna has no problem in killing the demons. He doesn't even have to come here to kill them, because everything's controlled by him. So one little blood clot that stops oxygen going to the heart, he can die very quickly. So we should always be praying to the Lord and following the regulative principles if you want to be protected. If you don't want to be protected, then you say, "Oh, there's no God. So this whole thing, this Krishna consciousness is all nonsense, and I'm not going to follow the regulative principles anymore." So what happens to those people? You could write a book of what happened to the people that left Krishna consciousness. And you'll see that they ended up in what you call dead ends, dead end. And, so the best thing is never leave Krishna consciousness and always understand that there's a plan of the Lord. So you want to be part of that plan. Let's say you want to be part of, the Lord's desire to see the movement spreading all over the world. And that's, his plan is executed in many different ways. But devotees are patient, whether they're successful or not successful, they don't give up. And they always depend on the mercy of Krishna. All right, are there any questions on this last verse of the 16th chapter? Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, does the success of the devotee mean anything?
Does what?
Does it mean anything? Let's say one devotee become very famous through lectures, preachings, a lot of following. One devotee sincerely following, but he cannot speak eloquently, attract the crowd. So in these scenarios, what should be our approach towards both of the devotees? How do we see things here?
Well, we should always be respectful to all devotees.
Yeah.
But devotees who may not be strictly following, we should offer our respects to them from a distance and not associate with them. But we should offer our respects because at least they're chanting Hare Krishna. And for devotees who are strictly following, we should, respect them also, but also offer service to such devotees because they're strictly following and inspiring us to be Krishna conscious. Now, sometimes devotees fall down. Even when Prabhupada was present, devotees were falling down and leaving the movement. And then sometimes they would come back to the movement. And Prabhupada would always say, look, don't shame them. We should be happy that they've come back, and treat them with, respect. Don't shame them. So, then, of course, even in Christianity, it's there, it's the prodigal son. Look that up. Prodical, prodigal son. It's the son that leaves the father. And then, but the father never forgets the son. And if the son comes, like let's say the father has two sons, one son never leaves the father, is always obedient to the father, always serving the father, and another son leaves and becomes, some nonsense for some time. But when that's the son that left comes back, he's welcomed by the father, with celebration and everything. And the son that was always with the father, sometimes say, look, he never did all these things for me. I'm the one that stayed here. He's the one that left, and now he's coming back and you have a big celebration and so forth. But that's okay. So do you see that prodigal son? Yes. What does it say?
Wastefully extravagant.
Prodigal son. Yeah.
Oh, private. Wastefully extravagant.
Yeah. Okay. There must be more to that.
Prodigal expending during the holidays, somewhat yielding for profusely lavish.
Yeah. There's some. Okay. The idea of the prodigal son is that he uh, is overindulging in sense gratification and being a nonsense, basically. And sometimes he leaves also, right? And then there's the son that's always staying with the father and the mother and serving them. But when the son that leaves, if he comes back, then the father is very pleased and he has a big festival and so forth. And the son that's always faithful, that's always been faithful to him, he said, "Hey, Dad, you never did this for me." But there's no reason to be, let's say, jealous because uh, we should always have a festival when someone who's left Krishna consciousness comes back, and welcome them, not look at them with the, uh, suspiciously, or like, for example, Vibhishan, he left Ravana when Ravana sort of beat him up because he was saying, "Look, you have to give Sita back, and and the Lord will respect you." And Ravana said, "You're a traitor. You know, you're not supporting me. Although they were brothers." And he sort of punched him, and then Vibhishan understood Ravana's gone crazy, so he left Ravana and went to see Lord Rama and surrendered to him. Now, some people were suspicious of that surrender, and they were thinking, "Oh, he's coming to our camp so he can spy on us and then give that information to Ravana." But Lord Rama said, "No, anyone who'll bow down to me, I will accept him. You know, and if he's come here to spy, let him spy." Uh, but at least he came back and gave his dandavats to the Lord. So you see how sometimes when a devotee leaves and then comes back, some devotees don't really, welcome the person back. You know, I'm not saying all devotees, but some devotees sometimes they say they're skeptical about the sincerity of the person who left, and now he comes back again. But we should always be very merciful and give everyone the, uh, you know, um, not see the negative part, but see the positive part. The positive part is, okay, he left, okay, he fell down and so forth, but now he's come back, and we should welcome him back and help him to stay, not look down on the person, and humiliate person. Right? Prabhupada never liked that. When someone might commit even some very bad, behavior, and then they fall down, but later on they come back. They should always be welcome. Prabhupada would always welcome, no matter how bad that you fell down. So we should never shame anyone if they fall down. Otherwise, you make it impossible for them to come back. Yes.
Something that the family disapproved and has now and that the family disapproved of and has now returned to home feeling sorry for what he has done.
Okay, now read that again, but
So it
go slowly.
it was mentioned in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
It was mentioned in the Bible, Luke 15:11.
Yes.
The parable of the prodigal son. It's
Yeah.
a big story over here, the one which you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, what does it say? What does it say?
Boy who has left his family in order to do something that the family disapproved of and has now returned home feeling sorry for what he has done.
Yes. Yes. So the family accepts him when he comes back, even though he did something really bad.
The story of prodigal son is a picture of God's love for us as his children.
Yes.
God's love for us does not depend on our faithfulness. It is unconditional. He loved us while we were still sinners. Though we are demanding and do not remain faithful, God is still our faithful and loving Father.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. And Prabhupada was like that. Sometimes devotees would do horrible things. And they come back, and Prabhupada would always insist that don't shame him. We should, act as if nothing has happened and welcome him back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
In all these aspects, Maharaj, it shows the positivity. Like
Yes.
when Prabhupada is welcoming and
Yeah.
shows always positive toward the situation.
Exactly. Uh, Prabhupada gives the example: when you make a fire, there's smoke in the beginning, right? But an expert person can fan the fire so that the fire gets stronger and the smoke goes away. So in that way, if someone commits this, some sinful activity and falls down, but then they want to come back, then we should not, let's say, focus on the bad things they did, but try and help them do good things, right? Just like, if you want to make a good fire, at first there's going to be smoke, but then if you can separate the smoke from the fire, then the fire really takes off. So in the same way, if the person came back, then there's some good things about him, So instead of focusing on the bad things the person did, you should focus on the good things that they've done, and help them improve on it. Sometimes it's difficult for devotees to understand that because, there might be, well, anyway, you have to be very generous and tolerant in Krishna consciousness, and just fill a person up with love and prasada, so that even they will apologize for falling down, and they'll try and become good devotees again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the prodigal son was someone that was extravagant, wasting money, and even leaving, the family, and then eventually coming back, and then the father is so happy, he makes a big festival, and the son that never left, I say, hey, what's going on? This guy left, and he did all this nonsense, and I've always been faithful, and I always stayed, and you never put a big festival for me. uh, But yeah, there should be a great festival when someone who's fallen down comes back. Uh, um, And by the way, Krishna is in the heart of everyone, so he knows exactly what we're doing and what our motives are. So if someone has stayed, and look what he says here. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead. Well, this is what we should meditate on. Back to the Vaikuntha planets. The Lord assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. So we have to understand there's a plan of the Lord. Well, what did the atheists say? There's no plan. What do you mean there's a plan? There's no plan. But there is a plan of the Lord. And therefore, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. That's a proverb. Not a blade of, once you look that proverb up, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. What does it say? Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. What does it say? Yes, go ahead. Yeah,
It says,
Oh, I can't.
go ahead.
it says the phrase "not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord" expresses the idea that everything happens according to the will of a supreme being. It is saying found in the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, it says that in the Bhagavad Gita?
AI says.
Really? Okay, that's good. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. See, it's good to know these things, So then you understand, okay, well, that means the Lord has a plan, so therefore I should be patient. I shouldn't get all panicked and freaked out and everything, Be very patient and continue chanting my rounds. In fact, I'll chant more rounds and be more strict about following the regulative principles and wait and see what is the plan of the Lord. Okay.
The phrase not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord reflects a central tenet in many religious and spiritual traditions, particularly in Hinduism, that emphasizes the omnipotence and omnipresence of the divine. It suggests that everything in the universe, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, operates under the divine will or cosmic order.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
This concept is deeply rooted in the philosophy of Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita,
Haribol.
where it is expressed that the Supreme Being, often referred to as Krishna in the context of the Gita, is the ultimate controller and overseer of all activities in the cosmos. Here are a few points related to this concept: divine will and control, surrender and faith, interconnectedness, karma, and dharma. The phrase serves as a reminder of the profound spiritual belief in a higher power governing all aspects of existence, encouraging humility, devotion, and trust in the divine will.
That's nice. Very nice.
ChatGPT gave this.
Huh?
ChatGPT gave this one.
Yeah, chat the DPD. Yes. Yeah, why don't you print that out and send it to me? Yes.
A blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. It is a common belief among Vaishnavas, but I cannot find the source of the exact wording. I see references to it in Srila Prabhupada's writings and the other commentaries as purports in the verses below. But I wonder if this is another one of Prabhupada's, as I call them, off the wall purports of their.
Mumbling, slow speak.
Yeah, you switched from speaking to spaghetti. Read again, but don't put your hand on your mouth or anything like that. Read slowly.
Slow.
Hindus are the ones saying that not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita 9.6. Understand that as mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me.
Wait a minute. What did you say? So read that again. 9.6. Yeah.
Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me.
Yeah, that means that Krishna is controlling everything. See, so that no one can, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. That means there's a plan of the Lord, and we should try to understand what that plan is. And what is the plan? Wait a minute. Let's say what it is specifically. See, this is something that the Christians don't understand. They don't understand. They don't accept reincarnation. They don't accept that if you go to hell, that you can come back again. They think that you go to hell, you stay there forever. There are a lot of things they don't understand because they don't really have a clear understanding of God. They might say God is almighty, God is this, God is that. But when you become more specifically trying to understand who is God, they make mistakes because they don't have bona fide acharyas. That's why. But Krishna is always merciful, and he's always going to do. He never rejects anyone. He's equal to everyone. So that means that you always have the chance to be forgiven by the Lord. And if you promise, just like Jaya and Vijay, they did a lot of sinful things. They were drunkards, they were woman hunters, everything bad. But when they what did they do? They threw something. One of the brothers threw something and injured Nityananda, and Nityananda, although he was bleeding, immediately Lord Chaitanya ran, and he was going to kill one of the brothers, the one that threw the piece of clay that injured Nityananda. But Nityananda fell at the feet of Lord Chaitanya and said, "My Lord, you've appeared in this age to liberate the fallen souls. So if you kill these people, you're not doing what you promised to do. So uh, please forgive them." And so the Lord did forgive them, but he made them promise that they would never do that again. So when you make mistakes, they can be excused, but it can't be a pattern of making mistakes and then getting excused and then making the same mistake again and then getting excused. It's in the case of Lord Chaitanya, he made the people that made mistakes, promised they wouldn't do it anymore. Yeah. So you can be excused once, twice, or three times, or as they say in English, 1, 2, 3, you're out. So that's a phrase from baseball. Strike one, strike two, strike three, you're out. But there are certain things that one strike, you're out. Like child molestation and things like that. It should be one strike and you're out. It's not 1, 2, 3, because that's such a horrible thing. And it's very difficult to rehabilitate a child molester. Very difficult. But you know, there are people that excuse them. I'm on the other side. You know, this child molestation. It's not 1, 2, 3, you're out. It's one strike, you're out. You know, because to do such a thing is so horrible that we should not tolerate it at all. But that's my opinion. Uh, there's there are different degrees of heinous activities. Look that word up, heinous. Heinous means it's really bad. What's it say? HEINOUS. What's it say? Yeah.
It's from Oxford Languages. Of a person or a wrongful act, especially a crime, utterly odious or wicked.
Odious means really bad and wicked. Yeah.
Hatefully or shockingly evil.
Yes.
Example,
That's what child molestation is. You know, it's hateful, it's shocking. You know, go ahead.
I think an example it's giving is a battery of heinous crimes.
A what? Of heinous crimes?
A battery.
A battery. That means that the
It's
crime is committed like like a machine gun. You know, one after the other. The person keeps doing horrible things. You know, and it's very, very, disturbing. There are people like that. There are people like that that commit heinous crimes, and I mean, it's disgusting, very, very, and disturbing because the people that they, either molest or kill, uh, the way they do it is oftentimes with torture. If you're going to kill someone, kill them right away, get it over with. But if you torture them, just like there was this one person who was, he enjoyed half killing animals and then torturing them till they died. And when the Lord saw this, he told him, look, if you're going to kill the animal, kill it right away, but don't, half kill them and then torture them to death. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, we should never even kill an animal, but there are hunters that enjoy half killing the animal and then torturing it to death. Yeah.
Odious means extremely
Unpleasant.
extremely unpleasant, repulsive. An example is a pretty odious character.
Yeah, a person is doing disgusting things. Odious means it's really disgusting. Okay, so are there any questions or any more comments? Otherwise, we will chant more Hare Krishna. Any questions from the outside world?
People in the transcendental world
Yeah.
online.
Yes.
Like maybe more than 10 years back, this is on the context when you said devotees don't get discouraged, they just continue to preach. Whether someone is in the lecture or not, they continue to speak because Narad Muni and all are hearing. So maybe more than 10 years back, I saw many times in the evening you were giving Bhagavad Gita class in the temple and whole hall was empty. I was shocked. The whole hall is empty and Maharaj is giving class. I was surprised. And I didn't have an answer like right now we have a clarity.
Haribo,
But
Haribo.
at that time it was like why Maharaj is keep and it's not one day. Like you were giving every evening and hall was empty.
Well, no, it's not empty. The deities are
Yeah,
there.
it is, that
Yeah,
is all.
yeah. That's all right. We'll continue. Won't be discouraged. Okay, well, we come to the end of that chapter 16, and tomorrow we'll begin on chapter 17. Haribol, Haribol, Haribol.
Maharaj Prabhu, I think you wanted to ask something. You can talk to you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one question is like how do we know that we are like ready for preaching or if we should preach like uh, how do we know that we are ready like because we might not be ourselves prepared enough.
Well, this one lady named Malati Devi Dasi had a child, and when she would go on Sankirtan, she would bring her child. Her child was, maybe 6, 7 years old, and the child would preach. Every person she would say, please chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada heard this and he said, oh yes, she is preaching very nicely. you know, so you don't have to be some big preacher. You just tell people, please chant Hare Krishna. That's enough. And you start with that, and then you can add on to that as you get more and more, fixed up in Krishna consciousness and hear more and more lectures. Then you can add on. But if in the beginning, if you only say, please chant Hare Krishna, that's enough. Right? On that level, at least you said the main thing, Hare Krishna.
Great.
So you have to, it's just like learning to play a violin. In the beginning, you hold the violin like this and go, you know.
We had that phase with my son.
But you keep practicing, and all of a sudden you're playing, Beethoven's fifth thing, so you learn gradually. But in the beginning, it's called scratch a doodle, like that. So yeah, you shouldn't give up. And practice makes perfect. So in the beginning, even if you go out on Sankirtan and say, hello, please chant Hare Krishna. And that's okay. That's fine. You're preaching. And if you get them to say Hare Krishna one time, then you succeeded. Haribol. Oh, by the way, now we've just finished this whole book. We go to the next second book is over there. All right, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. We have a festival. We finished Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Part 1. Now we're going to go to Part 2. Haribol. You say eventually you get to the end of the book. You have to be patient. Good. So tomorrow, let's see. We do here the victory of Hiranyaksha over all directions of the universe. Whoa. Okay.
I remember you saying that preaching can be through your actions and how you behave and how you interact with others. You
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're kind and
Achar is
through
achar.
your actions and your
Yes.
that can also be a feature.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there are people that, are doers. So when they see the leader being a doer, the leader is not, sitting on a palanquin and people are carrying him and banning him and everything. But when they see that the leader is actually, washing the dishes and sweeping and things like that, they get inspired because they're doers also, right? So you teach by example. Yeah, it's stronger than simply teaching by words. Yeah, yeah. Haribol. All right, so we covered a whole bunch of things today.
Beautiful, Maharaj. It's purport and work.
Yeah. 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 Never give up. Always remain in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, let me hear you say it. Haribo, Hare. Very good. Okay.